Tech Yeah Podcast.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, now we're recording. Folding telephones, killer selfies, and zombie pigs. All this and more coming up on episode number 30,
Is it 30?
of the Tech Yeah Podcast.
Did we do it?
Recorded live in front of a studio audience of people walking by a window.
Yeah, everyone walks by and looks at us, so that's kind of like
We
alive.
are technically recording in front of a studio audience. They're just mobile.
It's as good. It's as close as we're gonna get.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Happy week, Tony.
Happy week to you, Bill. We're a little late today.
Yeah. It's been, just stuff got in the way. It's fine.
Yeah. Well, it was a holiday week.
Holiday weeks, just stuff going on.
Work's still
Work is
crazy.
being
Work
annoying.
is still so crazy.
It'd be an annoying.
Yeah, actually, I
crap thing.
have a meeting like right after this, so I gotta
We gotta.
zip here.
We'll cut out the banter. We'll cut out the crap.
We'll still have the banter.
We'll still have banter. How was your week, Tony?
It was pretty good. I'm trying to think if there's any big events, but really, it's mostly been working. I bought an air fryer at home.
Sweet.
It's very good. I've had a lot of fun with it.
You give me like vegetables and all kinds of
Last
stuff.
night I bought some like Kobe hamburger patties because I've been trying to like count calories still, which is going pretty well. But I bought some like these Kobe hamburger patties, and so I just put a hamburger in there. Then I cut up a bunch of asparagus and just put a ton of asparagus like on top, like everywhere else.
Yum.
And just put a little olive oil in there, shook it around, ran that thing. It was delicious. It was so good.
That does sound really
The
good.
asparagus came out like it almost came out like fried asparagus. Like it was kind of crispy on the outside.
And was it actually? It was like uncooked patty, Kobe beef patty, right?
Yeah. Everything was
So
raw when I put it in, and raw asparagus. You know what I mean?
That's
It wasn't
awesome.
I didn't do any nothing was pre-cooked or whatever. And so I just threw it in for 10 minutes. I flipped the hamburger and put it in for like 10 more minutes. It was delicious.
Well, you look good.
Hey, you look amazing.
No, I don't.
You always look amazing. I don't know what this new Angels thing is for you. I know you went to a game this weekend. You're all in on Anaheim.
Yeah, well, this jacket that I'm wearing is a throwback, and it was in a different closet, and I was looking for it like for a week, and then I finally found it, so I wanted to wear it.
Did you steal it from Jim Abbott?
No, I wish I did though.
Yeah, he was pretty cool.
But I did find out from a friend that works at the Angels that I don't know how familiar you are with baseball players, but we were talking about flying and stuff. He's kept up with that, and
The only
Troy-
Angel I know is Otani Kun.
Troy Percival, who was kind of like the number one starter during their World Series win, he's a pilot, so I might connect with him and check out his plane soon.
Yeah, what else happened to me this week? My Samsung Galaxy folding phone died.
Oh, did it break?
Yeah, it just the screen just stopped working.
Oh crap!
And there's a story here about it. Sorry, we're just laughing because I don't have a.
That was just the worst segue
that was
ever.
The best segue.
That was the worst segue. All right, yeah. So Samsung Galaxy Fold,
So this, I pulled up the most
which
most
looks weird in
editorial-
print. Doesn't that name look weird
It
in
looks
print?
so bad.
I don't know why it looks so
And
bad.
I pulled up the most editorialized article. This is by CNET. Roger Chang. Samsung should be taking a victory lap right now for its innovative Galaxy Fold. Reviewers should be singing. Why don't you just tell me what happened? Should be singing the praises of the first major foldable
Way to bury the
smartphone,
lead scene,
which was supposed to launch Friday. The only controversy should be the price, but we don't live in that reality. Instead, Samsung on Monday delayed the launch of the Fold, following reports that some of the small number of devices seeded to reviewers began to malfunction or break. The CNET review unit, however, hasn't had any issues. The delay, blah blah blah. There's not
The story is that they delayed the launch of the Galaxy Fold because screens were starting to malfunction and the protective layer was being mistakenly peeled off by reviewers.
Yeah, so if you are or are not in the know about tech and tech reviewers,
This is where they get their tech news, so we're assuming they're not in the know.
yeah, I know. That's why we're going to get you up to speed here.
Yeah.
Starting last week, Marques Brownlee is kind of the biggest tech reviewer I know, and I saw his Twitter posts about he originally was retweeting someone else's post about not removing the screen protector that looks like you should be able to remove it, but you're not supposed to remove it. And then it causing the phone to malfunction, and he also did that. And then another tech reviewer also said that their screen had stopped working, and they were all screen issues, right? Like at the hinge, the screen would break either because they peeled off this protective layer that was supposed to stay on the phone, or because of just some other malfunction. And it was like 4 or 5, tech reviewers I saw that had that issue come up. I mean, it seems too coincidental to be a one-off thing, but not widespread enough to be like every phone's going to be this way. But I think Samsung's just like, all right, we're going to take a step back, and I think that's probably the best decision as, currently.
Yeah, that CNET article, that was a little bit of a weird take on that, because I think this is really good from the Samsung business viewpoint and perspective. That was a really smart move to identify an issue that quickly, and one to even
I feel
have
like that CNET article. They're like, all right, you need this many words, and
yeah.
he's like, oh, I'm like,
well, what we should be doing is we should be so excited over our new phones,
I'm like
but
60
no,
words
they
short.
broke.
What am I gonna do?
Like, listen, you little twerp. Like, shut up. But they obviously had the issue with the Galaxy Note, the batteries exploding, which was a little bit different of an issue. That was a supplier and a defective part from a supplier, kind of like the airbag recalls, where it's like really not Honda's fault. It's a Takata airbag that was, but anyway, like it's how the companies respond to these, these big PR nightmares. Mm-hmm. That's really important for them moving forward. And Samsung did something cool by being kind of the first big company to market this new technology. They had the foresight to release review copies of the phone, examples early to reviewers to get some real world experience, and to kind of have their finger on the trigger of, do we launch this thing or not, and pull it at the last minute.
Yeah, I have to imagine, with launching something like this and like R&Ding something like this, like, along this whole pathway that like this could all fall apart at any moment. Like, this is a proof of concept. I think the real goal of Samsung here is like, when foldable phones do become a real thing, when they are, when they kind of permeate the market, like, who's going to sell that technology? We want to have that technology. And to do that, you've got to kind of put yourself out there. Like, there's an amount of vulnerability required to be like a forerunner. And, I think this is kind of the lumps you take doing that. And I don't, if they couldn't afford the lump, they wouldn't have put themselves in that position.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a halo car for car companies. It's a Lexus LFA.
Yeah.
Where you lose a bunch of money on it, but it's the car that everyone's talking about. It's super, it's super cool and innovative and everything, and it's already, like you said before we started, it's already served its purpose.
Yeah.
With all the press that they've gotten for it. I haven't heard any real like, oh, Samsung sucks as a result, like a backlash for this.
Yeah, even with tech reviewers, it seemed, which is funny with Twitter and everything, it seems pretty measured, the response.
Yeah, they're taking accountability for trying to peel off the screen.
Yeah, and I think everyone just kind of knew this all seemed crazy the whole time. I think Samsung knew this seemed crazy. And, I think it's, it's not what we expected or hoped for, but it's kind of where we're at. And I think that, this is kind of these are, like I said, these are lumps you take trying to do new and innovative things. I mean, if you were Apple, you just wait till someone else did it.
Yeah.
And then just buy that display and put it on your iPhone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're bendy phones, whatever it was, the 6, and they're
you're not holding it right, Bill.
Yeah, you're not holding it right. Like, this is a very un-Apple response.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the technology, and I could be completely talking out my ass on this, but from my understanding of how a cell phone screen works is you've got the glass layer, and then you've got 2 layers of basically like chain link fences that are on top of one another. And when you put your finger on the glass, it like arcs the connection between those 2 chain link layers and identifies that on a grid as where you're touching. So what I think the Samsung Fold has done is put in an adhesive version of that glass, and it's obviously not glass because glass doesn't fold, but whatever their polymer based adhesive screen is looks like it's a screen protector, like a tempered glass screen protector that we're used to.
Mm-hmm.
So these reviewers, because you've got that kind of fold thing in the middle, are just seeing that be discolored or raised or some imperfection in that where it looks like it is a screen protector.
Yeah. So that's what happened to the Samsung phone, guys. So if you pre-ordered one, sucks to be you. You're not getting it anytime soon. But if you pre-ordered one, you knew what you were getting into.
Yeah, you knew what you're getting into. And you're also protecting yourself by not getting the newest, hottest phone on the market. You're saving yourself from sure death.
And honestly, you're in a much better position than had Samsung just decided to force this thing out. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So let's all be grateful. And there's, I don't know, I just think it's cool when companies try and be innovative, even if it bites them in the butt sometimes.
Yep.
What do you got from me? But you got another one coming. We got a lot of news today.
So outside, this is an article from Outside Online from Catherine Miles. Selfie deaths are an epidemic. A recent report found that 259 people died between 2011 and 2017 while stepping in front of the camera in often dangerous destinations.
Every time I look at my selfies, I die inside a little bit.
That's true. I think they're talking about actual death, not just metaphysical
not like emotional,
death. Yeah, emotional.
Okay.
But anyway,
keep going. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, I just wanted to. I had this article like in a tab open, and since we were talking about that cell phone, I thought it was kind of funny. I wouldn't call 200 and what they say 259 deaths over a 7-year period necessarily an epidemic, but it is amazing how crazy the urge is to take that amazing viral picture.
You know, thousands of people every year are still hit by trains.
I know.
That's crazy.
Dude, there's some people die in weird ways.
Yeah, on another podcast I'll do, How Does This Get Made? They have an ad that runs about like, don't go and don't try and beat the train because they'll kill you because thousands of people die to trains every year. It's like, why? Like, what? You know where they're at. They're on the track.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people have like headphones in and they don't hear the train coming and they don't look. It's amazing.
Yeah, but they're not coming out of nowhere.
It's
selfie deaths, people. Just knock it off.
Yeah.
I like it. You know what? I love a good selfie. Don't get me wrong. But just think about where you're taking it. Be careful.
Be careful. Yeah. Just be careful. Don't
take
be
care
stupid.
of yourself out there, people. We love you.
Don't be stupid. So I wanted to briefly go over this story, given the timeliness of it. So, video game Assassin's Creed could play a role in Notre Dame Cathedral's restoration. So the terrible fire at the cathedral in Paris that destroyed a lot of the main, or destroyed the main spire and a lot of the structure. So the news of this came pretty quickly when it happened. I believe it was a week and a half ago, on the 17th, I think, or 16th. But there was a bunch of stories started coming out in response to this tragedy. There were obviously the celebrities that were sharing all the pictures of them in front of the cathedral, which I heard one criticism of that, which was I love people using this tragedy to show all the cool trips they've been on.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of. I mean, I know plenty of people that also shared their Notre Dame photos, and this isn't a jab at them. I think everyone gets kind of carried away, but I think that just that kind of initial impulse to be like, oh, I have something to. I'm part of this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
I did it yesterday with a plane crash.
Yeah, I think it's a little. It's irksome, right? Because I get it. You're taking these stories and be like, these are about me too. These are about me.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily, I think, the best response when something bad happens, but it's also, I think, very natural. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's strange to want to show your. I think people always, have had that feeling of like, like it's like when you see yourself in the paper, you're like, look, I was at this thing. You know what I mean?
Or if you've met somebody, even if it was 20 years ago, that died recently, like a celebrity, like and you write this whole thing. So there was a very, very tragic plane crash on Sunday or Monday. Actually, I think it was Monday. And it was a very rare, very rare. It was the only one of its kind, this flying wing plane that crashed in Southern California here. And I had seen it at an air show.
Was it a Boeing at Wing Max?
No.
Airplane joke.
But it's like a lot of the aviation accounts that I follow shared pictures that they had taken of the plane, and like this long thing, like very sad to hear the tragic about, like these like nice write-ups and stuff and about the pilot and everything. And I had that same kind of initial reaction as I did with all the pictures of the cathedral, where it's like, somebody died, a historic thing was destroyed. Like it's really sad. Do we need to inject ourselves into this narrative and this story as someone that even like I took a picture of the plane in an air show from the parking lot as we were pulling in. Is a really cool picture of the silhouette of just the wing. And, I was like, that's a cool picture. It's really sad. So I posted it just kind of a rest in peace.
I feel like there's a time for that, but I don't think the time is right when it happens. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like when it's your own memory, that's when it's fun. You know what I mean? Like, I think, like if in 6 months you see that picture and you're like, oh, that's a cool memory. Like, I remember that was cool. And like, you want to like have your own moment of like, hey, like, I was just looking through my photos and found this cool picture. And, I thought it was so cool when I saw this thing and, took a photo and, it sucks it's not around anymore, right? And and it's sad someone would lost their lives in in the crash. I think that's maybe a healthier way to kind of celebrate that memory or kind of honor that moment, because it's. But like I said, like I think it's so natural. It's so hard to be critical, like of people reacting. The reactions are so natural by themselves. You know what I mean? Like it's such a human thing. Like it's so raw that it's like, how are you critical of it? Right. Like it's just what someone did,
Yeah. We just have such an urge, like a knee jerk urge to want to post something and just, it's like such a narcissistic thing to,
Well, people are so social too.
And just like, the urge to put it on social media and be like part of the hashtag and be in there. And, I did it too. But anyway, like going back to the actual story, which is Assassin's Creed. So I saw a headline of the article that says like video game to help restoration efforts with the cathedral. And the very first thing I thought of is, I wonder if Assassin's Creed had that cathedral in there. And I opened up the article and it was in fact about Ubisoft and how they had done a lot of laser mapping of the cathedral.
Yeah, they like mapped the whole thing.
The whole entire thing. So they're going to use that data to help restore the cathedral, which I thought was pretty cool. And which was my original interest in those games, to be able to experience some of these historic monuments and locations, virtually, that are either long gone in some cases, or at least in, that are still there, but you haven't seen them.
Yeah, I just hope it offers some people an insight into the value of kind of the quality and the development of these games.
Yeah, the art of it.
Yeah, I mean, Ubisoft's not my favorite developer. And Assassin's Creed's definitely not my favorite franchise. But, the work they put in ensuring accuracy and, I think it's truly invaluable to the world as we move forward. Having these 3D models of things like the Notre Dame or, that's not the only historical monument that they've mapped for Assassin's Creed specifically.
Oh, yeah, just them alone.
Just there's just such a library of high quality, high detail information that moving forward, it could be so important to us as more and more of these things kind of are taken by time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you could be in a VR 3D perfect model of some of these monuments that have been burned down or were destroyed or just naturally erode or whatever. And those, it's just like movies, like Titanic, being able to see what that must have looked like, and that gets so much attention and is, revered by so many people in culture that video games, a lot of them deserve that same amount of respect, because as much, if not more, work has gone into recreating some of these worlds and environments.
Yeah. Once again, I don't think EA brought this up. When I saw it, it was just something that people were asking them on social media because they did have the Notre Dame. So, I don't think that they're trying to like FOMO on the, on the Notre Dame burning down.
Yeah.
I think they were just basically, people were asking them and they're saying, hey, well, we do have all this map data, but I think the reality is that they're going to make the Notre Dame different, which is for better or for worse.
It's kind of cool.
It's kind of cool.
It was made the way it was originally, and just artists do your thing.
I hope it's sensible to what it is.
Yeah.
Like, as much as the Louvre is cool, like, I don't know how much I appreciate the modern architecture. It's, you know what I mean? Like, I guess it's neat, but, I hope it retains its, some of its character. You know what I mean? I hope it doesn't get a little too modern.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I'm sure they'll make a good choice, right? So we'll see moving forward. But it also means, sorry, Assassin's Creed, your Notre Dame isn't the one they're going to rebuild.
No.
So I had one more small story before we get into our bigger story.
Okay.
Right. And this is kind of tech adjacent, and it's from NPR. Someone sent it to me this morning. I just thought it was so interesting. The affluent homeless, a sleeping pod, a hired desk, and a handful of clothes. And so this is from NPR, Sam Sanders. So I'll just read you a little bit and then we'll talk about it. More young people are leaning into the rental or sharing economy, owning less of everything and renting and sharing a whole lot more. Housing, cars, music, workspace. In some places such as Los Angeles, this rental life has gone to an extreme. Stephen T. Johnson, 27, works in social media advertising and lives in Hollywood. He spends most of his days using things he does not own. He takes a rideshare service to get to the gym. He does not own a car. At the gym, he rents a locker. He uses the gym's laundry service because he does not own a washing machine. He does not have an apartment, actually. He rents a bed in a large room with other people who rent for beds for nights, weeks, or months at a time through a service called PodShare. All the residents share a kitchen and bathroom. Johnson also rents a desk at WeWork, a co-working space. He says the only clothes he owns are 2 versions of the same outfit. Johnson says he owns so little, he's even given up his backpack. He says for him, the lifestyle isn't cumbersome and confusing. That's what's great, he says. When you don't own things, you don't have to keep track of them. You just show up. And so basically, this is basically talking about this kind of young generation that...
Sounds so stupid.
It does sound so stupid. And that's kind of what I thought was interesting, right? Because for me, it's like, it doesn't make any sense, right? But, I think we've talked a lot about this kind of sharing economy and, kind of this app-driven. I ordered my lunch from Postmates today, right? Like, just because I'm not all in, right? It's funny how critical I can be of someone that is. You know what I mean? When I got my foot in the water, like I use Uber all the time. I use Postmates all the time. But yeah, like even through things like PodShare, like these people can literally live moment to moment, through these sharing apps. And it's just such a different world, I think, than kind of what we're used to or kind of what we know as like existing and working.
Well, it's definitely not traditional.
No, definitely not.
That's for sure. But it's also, I mean, I like the minimalistic approach to that. There's like, we have so much stuff just because we feel like we need to, or we can't let it go, or think that.
I'm jealous of the 2 outfit thing.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
that's cool.
Part of me is like, I wish I had no clothes.
Well, and I would love to see too, like what his finances look like. Because if he's like, yeah, I'm gonna live like this while I'm in my 20s for, I'll live like this for 10 years, and I'm gonna save up enough money to buy a house with cash, and I'm gonna put the rest of it, invest the rest of it, and then have a retirement at 50, and that's a sacrifice for a goal. But I think he's just lame.
Living it up. One moment.
Just like, everything's society's, the constructs are lame, man. And I don't want to be beholden to the financial man. And that's what I feel like that dude's probably hedging towards.
Yeah, I also think it's kind of lame, but also I don't think it's just this dude. Like, I think that there is a subsection of society right now that is fully embracing this mindset. And, it's funny because, like, for the longest time, I've been like, home ownership isn't necessarily the answer, right? Like, as far as investing in your future, I think that there was a time where it was super lucrative, but as we move forward and as, prices have kind of, I don't want to say settled, but become so, the start is so high, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
as far as
the relative cost is higher than it used to be, for sure.
So dollars and cents, I think there are other, there are other ways. Like, that's what I mean. Like, that's kind of what you're saying too. Like, if you look at like home ownership costs against inflation and how much they've grown, like a lot of these payouts aren't as great as they seem on paper. You know, my dad bought his house for 150 grand, and now it's 320 grand 20 years later.
Yeah.
Well, that's like a rolling 3%, not including property tax. You know what I mean? Like that's not a great dividend, right? Like it's not a great payout compared to, you know, my grandpa invested, you know, smartly for 20 years and lived in a pod, you know what I mean? And he made 16%, and now he's a multimillionaire, right? Like,
Yeah,
like I think if that's your approach,
for sure.
that's pretty smart.
Yeah, like if you have your $2,000 a month rent that you like are putting towards Amazon stock, or you know something, or you know whatever,
Probably a stock we've never heard of.
yeah, or just what
TikTok
or
stocks,
yeah,
or
or just like
whatever
whatever,
the
yeah,
kids are
TikTok,
doing.
yeah, investing in TikTok. Yeah, you're right. Like 20 years later, that same money that you'd be putting towards either rent or a mortgage could be enormous. And the problem with the mortgage is that you need such, especially where we live, such a huge down payment that no one in our generation is saving up $80,000 in cash.
Yeah.
It's you're either doing what this guy's doing, or you're getting some inheritance lump sum that you can put towards a down payment.
Yeah, someone is funding your.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
no millennial is working the jobs that we're able to get in this economy and having $80,000 cash to put towards a house.
Yeah, I would say maybe like 3% of people under 40 are probably, you know, earning enough to put a down payment on a house. You know what I mean? Especially in a major metro.
Yeah, like you know, if you're bonused, if you've got some crazy sales job in a big city and you're, you know, selling yachts or luxury apartments or enterprise level something or other. You know.
Yeah, I mean, because you know, 20% on a modest house in Southern California is $150,000.
Yeah, it's great. It's freaking
You know,
crazy.
like
Yeah,
who has $150,000 cash?
cash.
You know what I mean? Like it's.
See how long it takes you to do that.
Yeah, just do the math. Just see how much you can save
Yeah.
every month and how long it would take.
How much are you making right now?
Yeah.
If you paid absolutely nothing, if you spent zero money, how long would it take?
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to take years for most people just from that perspective. Like I am not spending a dime of what I bring in.
Yeah.
It's going to take you a couple years. Now add all of your expenses on top of that. How long is it going to take you to reach $150,000?
Yeah, so I guess, you know, there's a part of me that's like, yeah, there's a savvy young man, you know, that's 18 and, you know, like was like, I'm not going to college because that's dumb.
Yeah.
I'm gonna live in this pod space
Yeah.
and you know, work a market a advertising job, and you know, I'm gonna put that extra $700 a month into you know a diverse stock portfolio on Robinhood, and you know what I mean, like that's my mental picture of like who this new millennial is, or who this, I don't even know if are they still millennials? They're like Gen Zers,
Whatever the hell. Yeah.
And, you know, that's my imaginary young person that's like on it.
Right.
The reality is it's probably 24-year-olds that don't want to pay their student loans, like not having an address for bill collectors to send letters to.
They're just lazy.
You know what I mean? They ripped off their parents and they don't want them to know where they live.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they float around through pods and work jobs they don't tell anybody about. Like, that's probably a little more realistic. 'Cause I know in my 20s, right? Like I owed people money, creditors and whatnot. And I think for a lot of people, like, you know, I have a family member that was homeless for a time, right? And I think a lot of the draw of that is, you know, like, I'm just done with all this. Like, I don't want your calls. I don't want your mail. I'm not going to pay you back. I'm not going to answer you. You know, I'm just going to go live my life outside. You know what I mean? And as dangerous as it is.
There's so many people that are homeless by choice.
Yeah.
Dude. I mean, they're just,
and I'm not saying that's all homeless people, right? Like, whatever. No. Although I will say this. Everyone always says, like, you're just one paycheck away from being homeless. I've never talked to a homeless person that lost their job and, you know, now they're like, I just, you know, I lost my job and now I got nowhere to live. Like, it's that's never, I mean, I'm sure it's the case for somebody, but I think those people find a way to get help, right? I think society or culture has a lot of ways for people like that to find a way to at least keep a roof over their head. And
well, especially on the West Coast,
Yeah.
they're given so much crap for free that it's like, why would you go through all the hassle of getting a job and finding an apartment and signing a lease?
I think people would rather work. I'm just saying, like, I think when you get down and out at least here, you might be a little hungrier than you'd like to be, and you might not enjoy the lifestyle that can be afforded to you through these programs. But there are programs, and if you feel like that, then you should reach out to those people.
Now, all of this would be completely redundant, unnecessary, and not matter one bit if we're attacked by a horde of zombie pigs.
Dude, the zombie pigs are coming.
Zombie pigs are not only coming, but they're here.
Well, these scientists were smart. I mean, read your story, but I'll get into why they were smart after you read it.
Did they have them chained down with a wooden stake ready to go?
No, they put anti-seizure drugs in the pigs when they resurrected them, so they wouldn't have brain activity.
Love it.
Yeah, smart.
Okay, so here is the story from Tech Times. Are we close to resurrecting the dead?
Pigs, at least.
Scientists revive brain cell activity in dead pigs. So this is a Ted Renosa article in Tech Times. So scientists successfully brought back some functions to the brain of a pig that had already been dead for several hours. In a study featured in the journal Nature, researchers at Yale University, I wonder what the researchers there, how much they bribed to get into Yale.
Oh, a lot.
Were they photoshopped on the crew team? I don't trust. This study already is lost credibility.
They're all voting for Elizabeth Warren, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. Yale University were able to restore cellular and circulation functions to animals' brains 4 hours after it had died. Such processes are long and thought to cease almost immediately after blood flow and oxygen ceases in the body. So Professor Seston, one of the authors of the study, noted that mammal brains can retain their capacity to restore circulation and even some cellular and molecular activities several hours after the body has stopped functioning. The researchers made use of an artificial perfusion system known as BrainX.
BrainX?
Yeah, Brain EX.
Fake ass Elon Musk over there.
Capital E too. To pump the pig's brain with an experimental solution that essentially mimics the regular blood flow. This gave the organ the necessary oxygen and nutrients it's needed to trigger some of the normal functions. So they're obviously not doing this to zombify anything and bring back anybody from the dead.
They're not, but
But it will.
It's a dangerous science.
This will fall into the wrong hands.
Yeah.
The primary purpose of this was to help with stroke patients and people that have brain damage where parts of their brain have been dead, have died. But they did. For a brief moment, we did have a zombie pig.
Do zombie pigs have rights?
Do regular pigs have rights?
Yeah, I mean, to a point, right? You can't be cruel to animals. Like, it's against the law. I mean, people get away with it, but the reality is, if you get caught being excessively cruel to an animal, like there was a reason they had to kill the pigs before they could test on them, because you can't just test stuff on living animals, right?
Now, if I eat zombie pig bacon, do I then become part zombie?
Clearly.
Okay.
Let's put it this way, right? So these pigs, all right, because you can't test on a live pig, they killed the pigs before they tested on them, right? Now, what if they hooked them up to the zombie machine and then used those now zombified pigs as recipients of clinical trials, right? Is that cruel and unusual?
Well, the reviving of them might be considered cruel and unusual.
Well, I mean, but they're not. They're dead. What is life, Bill?
Where's a pig's soul housed?
Yeah,
is it in the bacon? Is it in the pig's butt?
Right. Because the thing I heard from the story is if we consider death like the absence of brain activity, right? Like by every measurable concept, if you flatline, if you're watching ER and they're like, oh, we lost him, it's because the EKG goes flat. The brain has stopped, right? And that's
the heart has stopped.
We do brain. Brain is when you're dead. If your heart stops, you're not dead.
Okay.
Like if your heart stops, they try and revive you. If your brain stops, you're dead.
Yeah.
Maybe you're right. The flatline is not your brain. The flatline is your heart.
Yeah.
But if your heart stops, they try and revive you. If your brain's off, you're dead.
Well, we might be over our head a little bit, but I think, because your heart could be pumping, but your brain could be dead. Like you could be brain dead, you could be comatose.
Comatose isn't brain dead though.
But you can have
your brain's still firing if you're comatose. Your brain has not.
But then what happens if you're brain dead?
Your heart can't pump if your brain is dead.
So you're
what
left
would control
alive.
it?
Yeah.
That's like saying if your hard drive's still spinning, but your CPU's not on, or your memory's still full, but your CPU's on. Your CPU control power can't flow. Yeah, energy cannot move through your body if your brain does not pass that energy, right? So if your brain is dead, your heart will not. Like it might.
Yes. No. I understand. I understand. Like the functions of your heart are controlled by the brainstem, and it's not subconscious.
So your brain may be like at a very low level. Like if you're comatose and you can't respond and you can't open your, you know what I mean, and you're in a coma. Like yes, your brain activity is severely limited. It's limited to the point where it cannot sustain you as a person.
Yeah, but doesn't life support function as your brain pumping, continuing to keep blood flowing through your body and keeping your heart going?
I think it's assisting. I think your brain still has to have some activity.
I don't want to go to Google on this because I think our ignorance is funny.
I think our ignorance is better. I think especially that I'm so insistent that I know.
Yeah, I don't want to know. I don't want to know the real answers.
I clearly don't know.
Yeah,
but I'm very insistent that I know.
I know. I can tell. That's why I was like, I don't want to do the like. Oh yeah, well let's check the internet, because my understanding is that
if we're totally wrong, so much better.
So much better.
Yeah. But I'm pretty sure I'm right.
Yeah. So my understanding is that if your heart stops,
yes,
and you flatline,
yes, and
you're pronounced dead, like if you're in a hospital, ER, or whatever, and like, okay, we lost him, the heart's dead, and it flatlines, call it. Oh, it's 8:52. That you still have brain function. So, like there was a report even that we talked about that. Yeah, you can still hear, you can still you're still alive even though your heart has stopped. Like the hearing is the last to go, and that's why at hospitals they actually make sure to speak around the people that have recently died in a particular way because they still have function.
Yeah, but I don't think they won't put you. You're not dead. I think they wait. Like your brain has to shut off before they're like dead.
No, I think they call it when your heart stops. When
no, even if they call it,
your brain is still there.
You're saying they don't talk. You're saying both things though.
No, if your heart stops, I'm
saying dead as a term versus dead as dead. Like because you're saying, oh no, you're dead, but they whisper because. You could still hear.
Yes, no, you're clinically dead, but there is still a tail of function.
I think your brain dictates your clinical deadness.
How do they test that? They don't hook your brain up to an MRI to.
They don't have
track.
To. If they put a diode on the outside, they can measure your brain activity.
They can't.
Yes, they can. I just did it. Yes,
I know, but they can't.
I just did it.
But they cannot. They cannot. That's why they have MRIs where they.
I know what an MRI is too. I had an
brain
MRI.
Scans.
But
they don't. If you have a car accident and you're laying there and your like heart's getting weaker and you're like, and beep, okay, we lost him. All right, time of death 5:52,
but
you still have brain function.
Yeah, but you know why they say they lost him? Because oxygen's not going to your brain because your brain is now choking to death. Right?
Yes, but it takes hours for that to. It takes hours for it to be completely zero, dead.
Yeah, maybe.
That was a report that came out where they have tested function past death, where they did put some subjects in an MRI and see how long it takes for the little for the last little fire to go off in your brain.
Yes, but I think like measurable brain activity, like externally measurable, like blah, 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 they put the diodes on your head and the firing off. Which is how they measure brain activity, right? When they stick
they
stick those things in your head. I just had a test. They just did all this stuff to me.
Yeah.
I think the absence of that is when they consider you dead.
But that is not when they call you dead at the hospital. They call you dead when your heart flatlines because they don't.
No, they don't because they try and revive you when your heart flatlines.
Yeah, and if they can't do it, and if the heart doesn't
fire,
so
now you're a zombie.
No,
they don't call you dead until there's no coming back. The heart flatlines. They're like, Give me
Yeah,
the
but if you can't-
paddles.
right, but
give
if
me
you
the
can't-
paddles. Right. If they can't stop
If you
that,
can't get your heart going, your brain doesn't
Dies.
have your brain dies. But what I'm
and
saying,
that's when they're like, he's dead.
no,
Yes.
it is not.
Yes.
They say
Let's
you're
fight.
dead. They say
Fist
you're
fight right now.
But what I'm saying is that if your heart stops,
Yes.
your brain now does not have its source of oxygen.
Yes.
Right? So when the heart stops and when the heart is deemed not
Wrong.
restartable, they clinically call you dead.
Yes.
There is
But
still
not when your
brain
heart
function.
stops. It's not when you're. But there's low level brain function. But I'm saying, I think what they're calling is that a level of brain function has choked out and died.
No,
Yes. It's not your heart stopped.
it is.
Then why do they try and revive you if you're dead? Why
Because
do they
you-
try and
because your heart
start your
can't-
heart if you're dead?
Because your heart can
Your heart can-
restart.
but then you're not dead. That's what I
Right.
mean. If your heart stopping means you're dead, then you'd be dead when your heart stopped. You can't say your heart stops means you're dead unless it doesn't. Then it doesn't mean you're dead.
There's a
That's not how they measure it.
clinically.
That's, you know what but you understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying, but you're confusing the
Oh,
concept.
I'm confusing.
You're confusing the concept of
Dead
being
with dead? I just said that.
with clinical
You
being
can't-
dead.
You can't take my words away from me.
I'm not.
Yes, you did. I cannot believe you.
Medically speaking,
you stolen
when your
my
heart-
agency.
When your heart stops, because if your heart stops and they choose to not revive you, when it's the moment that your heart stops is when clinically they declare you dead. Like your heart
I
is
don't
not
think
being
that's true.
restarted.
I don't believe that's true.
You still have brain function for hours after your heart stops. They're not sitting there going, his heart stops. Let's sit here and wait until his brain stops firing.
Do you want me to call my ER nurse
Yeah,
friend?
we will check it, and we'll please email us. And
think-
subject line: Tony is
I'm pretty sure
not a doctor.
We're both really wrong.
Address your letters
I'm pretty sure we're both
to Tony is wrong.
Super
at
wrong.
555 Tech Yeah Drive.
But I'm pretty sure you're wrong too. Because your heart stopping cannot be the moment. Because
That's when the doctors declare you dead.
no, it's not. Because that's when the doctors try and start your heart again.
And if they can't get it started, they say, okay, his heart's dead. He's flatlined. This person is now dead. This person has now died. If you're on your deathbed with a DNR and your heart stops and your family's there and you take your last breath and you're dead.
And
you're
you
clinically dead. You dead. You're clinically dead.
It's
You
not.
still have brain function.
Yes,
you
but-
still have hearing. You can still hear things, but your body has now died.
But what you're talking about, this still brain function, is not what I'm talking. It's not like measurable brain activity. It is literally like trace electricity left in your brain. I think what they use to consider you dead is like measurable brain function, right? I think when your heart stops, they say his brain is dying. We need to start this person's heart. And they try to start your heart, but your brain dies anyway. And they're like, oh shit, this dude's dead. Right? I don't think they're like, oh, his heart stopped. It's like, oh, it's too hard to get it kicked back over. Let's just call this one dead. I think it's like the brain is now choking to death. It is dying. This dude's dead. Now you're Googling it, aren't you?
Yeah, I am Googling it now.
We said we weren't going to Google
I
it.
know.
I wanted to Google it too. And I didn't Google it.
No, because in the emergency room,
Yes.
they do not have your brain
you're a
hooked up.
doctor.
They don't have your brain hooked up.
Yes, I'm sure they do.
No, they do not.
It's a diode, bro. What did you Google?
When death occurs.
When are you clinically dead? Clinical death is medicine. It is the heart,
See, I freaking told you.
according to this.
Yeah. Yeah, when clinically dead is you're not being able to support yourself. Your body is not able to support your brain, basically. Like you can have, that's why they call it brain dead, where there's no brain function, but they're still keeping you alive with machines. So some machine is pumping your heart up and down and making your body function, but there's no brain
Okay,
activity.
now this term says, despite the frequent use of the term clinical death, doesn't actually have a consistent meaning, said Dr. James Burnett, a neurologist
Yeah.
at Dartmouth
Yep.
in New Hampshire. In most hospitals, the doctor in charge of a patient's care makes a death determination, and there aren't universal guidelines for when to make a call, he says. You're dead when a doctor says you're dead.
Yeah.
What?
That was my point. It's like when they declare you dead, like time of death is this time, there is still brain function. They have given up on trying to restart your heart. You can't restart your brain. But until the story. That's the important part.
You can restart your brain.
That's the important part of this article.
I think I was wrong.
Is that they did restart the brain. They did pump some fluid into the pig's brain and did show signs of brain activity as a result of them restarting the brain. That's the breakthrough. Previously, it was your heart stops. Your brain is still going to be active for hours after your heart stops. So that's why they're doing the chest compressions and trying to keep you alive. And like, I don't want to lose this guy, damn it. Like, because you have a couple of hours to restart.
I think that's all conjecture.
What's conjecture?
Hours to restart the heart?
Yeah, that was what and I think we even talked about it on the podcast, is that there are, and that is why hospitals, when somebody does die, they have procedures with talking around recently deceased, because brain function is still occurring and the hearing is the last thing to go. So you're actually still hearing things after you've died.
I don't know if you hear things. I mean, I understand what you're saying. The reality that there's so much we don't know about death, though.
100%, yeah, by the nature of it. But that's why someone said, like, yeah, I was dead for a couple of minutes, and they brought me back, and and those stories exist because clinically they were declared dead, or you're dead when, from the clinical definition of death, is when your heart stops. Now you can revive the heart and hope that you return to normal brain functionality, but there is circumstances where if your brain is starved of oxygen, that those cells, the actual cells, die and are not able to brought back. What we're talking about is functionality being brought back to live, or brain cells that are able to be revived.
Okay.
Because you can have cells die in your brain now.
What are the odds that this is all going to fall into the wrong hands? Or we're going to have zombies?
Pretty
soon?
high.
Yeah.
Pretty high. I mean, just the fact that look at cloning.
Yeah.
I mean,
that sheep.
Yeah, you have cloning falling into the wrong hands, where people can, go back to your question about rights of zombie pigs. What about do clones have rights?
What about the Incredible Burger? Does it have rights?
Yeah.
What if we get cloned zombie burgers?
Cloned zombie bacon.
Sounds delicious.
It really.
I'll
it
be
sounds
honest.
really, really
It
good.
sounds real good.
It sounds really good, and it's probably vegan, right?
Think how fat you could get a cow if you just kept its brain hooked up to the zombie machine.
Dude, it'd be,
it died because it was too fat, and you're like, nope.
Just keep it going, dude.
Clicked him back on.
Keep eating cow.
And he's just like, no. And you're like, yep.
Yep.
That'd be like the best Kobe beef.
Yep.
Oh, that sounds amazing. This sounds like a
Oh
tasty
my God.
morsel right here. I hope no one
Yeah.
listens to this podcast, because I'm pretty sure I've been wrong for like the past 30 minutes. So if you made it this far, you already heard all that. Just forget it. That's my tip. My hot tip.
Turn your brain off.
Yeah, turn your brain off. Don't worry, we can turn it back on later.
Yeah, we'll turn it on later.
Bill, did you have anything else today?
No, that was all.
That's all I had too.
Yeah, it was fun. It's been like actual news. It's been a pretty gnarly couple of weeks. So we've been trying to steer clear of that. And as a result of the gnarly real news, a lot of the bigger tech stories, I think, have been buried. So we tried to fish out some things that might be interesting, if not fringy, on the the technological importance meter. Zombie pigs is not really high up there on.
I think zombie pigs is very high. It led to a very compelling discussion.
Well, and that's why we wanted to talk about it, because it's super interesting. It's not going to impact anyone's lives.
Yeah, the only other story I had was about a kid who was suing Apple for $1 billion. Did you see that?
Awesome.
It's so dumb.
Awesome.
He got arrested for breaking into an Apple store because someone used a fake ID in the store that had his name on it.
Very cool.
It wasn't him, and the police were like, "It's not you, so don't worry about it." And they let him go. But he claimed Apple used facial recognition and like made it look like his face or something, which didn't seem to have happened.
Awesome.
And he got away. Like, the cops were like, it's not you, go home.
Yeah.
But he still decided he needed to sue Apple for $1 billion.
Well, I mean,
Pretty smart.
pretty genius. I mean, if you're gonna sue someone for $1 billion, might as well be Apple.
It's just so funny. He gets arrested. He's like, and they're like, no, it's not you. You
Yeah.
can go home. And he's like, I'm suing for $1 billion.
Dude, it's just like, of course, why go out? I mean, you've got that lotto ticket sitting on your desk. Like, you might as well try to cash it in.
I don't think Apple's going to give him shit.
I
think if the story never made it to the news, maybe. But now that it's out, they're like, nah, like, you already did the damage. We're not playing ball.
I guess.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening. Please shoot us an email, techyapodcast@gmail.com. Tell me that I'm smart anyways and the bill is stupid. Tech Yeah Podcast on Twitter, Tech Yeah Podcast on Facebook, Tech Yeah Podcast on the YouTube, where you can see me and Bill do funny things. Bill, anything else you want before we sign out?
That's it. Love you guys. Love
Yeah.
TYPs.
Love you so much. Thanks, guys. Bye.